Okay, this is simply the referred to as the chapel at Fort de Chartres. And there was a spell through the years that it was referred to as the chapel of St. Anne, but it never was the chapel of St. Anne. St. Anne was just down the road from here. It actually was a church. This was, from what I can read, it was a standing chapel, and it was in this room. Now we toiled over for years and years, and not necessarily years and years, but it probably took us a year, about the placement of the altar. And there's some belief the altar should be against this wall, and the priest would come out. But for some reason, mainly because they were higher pay grade than the rest of us, they felt that the altar was over there. Now, again, by a standing chapel, it simply had no pews. Folks come in here and stand. I have always thought that this chapel was very much akin to a chapel in a hospital, where the men would not necessarily come in here every day to hear Mass. They may do it today out on the ground. We know on some feast days, they actually went from here down to the Church of St. Anne, kind of in Mass, and for Mass. I always felt this was kind of a place for the officers to come and have Mass, to pray, do those kind of things. And one of the cool things about this chapel is that a lot of the stuff in here was built by individual local craftspeople. And for example, we'll just start with the kind of the oldest. Well, first off, before he ever worked here, Jerry Franklin built the altar, and that goes back a number of years because he worked here. That actually was here before the flood of '93, because Jerry started working here about 96 or 97, 95 maybe. But at any rate, that altar was here well before that. The altar cloth was embroidered by Carol Dufresne. She's passed away. She was a seasonal worker here for a number of years, just lived down the road here in the bottom. The tabernacle and the crucifix was made many years ago by Don Wiley. Don is passed away. He's from over Sparta, Illinois. He was one of the founding members of the gun club. He also did a lot of woodwork, but more as a hobby. And then the confessional was, I think the confessional might have been built by
Richard Grower?
The what?
Richard Grower?
Yeah, I think Richard built that, and I know Richard made the 36 or 37, 39, whatever, candelabra, which if you've ever had the opportunity to see it lit, it really is cool. I mean, it's in the middle of the winter, we have an evening event, we light that, and it raises the temperature in the room. But it really is cool. But I'm sure that at some point, some event down the road, you guys will light it again. It's pretty neat. One of my favorite things is the Madonna and Child was carved by a gentleman. Well, I hate that. He's passed away too. He lives up at outside of Burkesville, just up the road. Hebner, Paul Hebner carved the Madonna and Child, and what I like especially about that is that Paul was a wood carver, had been a wood carver, and he never went to school. It was just his basically God-given talent, and it was just, in my mind, what you would find here out in the country at Fort de Chartres. You would find something similar to where someone had just simply carved it, and I really like that. He carved it, and Ted Mueller did the painting and the gilding on that statue. But basically, it's kind of neat. And in the museum, if you've been through the museum, and I know you all have, you'll see that a lot of the artwork in the museum is done by local artists, which was a goal that we had when we did the museum, is to use as much local talent as we could. And which I think it just kind of adds something. I can walk through there and I can point out Jeremy Mulholland's artwork because he has a special style. And I can go through and Ted Mueller, Diane Mueller, Jason's got some items in the museum. So I thought that was kind of cool. But I think it's kind of cool that we have this, and we have the local people have contributed to the chapel. Now the chapel, I always take my hat off when I come in here. Just because, but the chapel is not consecrated. We did not, back in the day, we didn't have a problem with church and state because it's an interpretive building that has never ever come up. That, we have this Catholic chapel in this state historic site. But we thought that probably if we had it consecrated, that it would have been a problem, or could have caused a problem. Plus, if you have it consecrated, then there's a lot more that has to go with it. There's candles that have to be lit. There's just things that's way that I'm not familiar with. And so we've had several weddings here in the chapel, and through the years. So, it's also been used. It's kind of cool, a neat place. So, anybody have any questions about the chapel? Yes?
Well, not specifically about the chapel, about the religious that would have been either passing through and performing duties here. Now, early on, was it all Jesuits? I know Jesuits tended to be missionaries in the, tribes.
Yeah, it was, there were someplace there's also records and all this, but a lot of times the priests here were from the Office of the Foreign Missions, which was separate than the Jesuits. And the Jesuits were in, and then they were kicked out at one point.
Yeah.
And I think in '61 they were basically partially banished. They were supposed to, leave or whatever. But and since you mentioned that, there is several Indian villages very near here. The state owns the site of one, and then just outside the state's boundary on the local farm, there's another that we know, Indian village from the Michigammie Indians. They had two villages. There was never a battle here before, but there was a massacre, and there's been a number of massacres, but most of them dealt with chickens. We've had the chicken massacre in Freeport Harmony on several occasions, but on June 6th, 1752, there was the Fox, the Sauk, the Sioux came down from up north, and they always didn't get along with the French, and they didn't like the local Illinois Indians, and they came down here, and there was a whole lot to it. You can read all about it. It all has to do with some Cahokie Indians that did some mean things, and then they came to live with the Michigammies, Michigammia, and they probably didn't tell the Michigammia that they had done these mean things, and then the Indians came down and they attacked them, and they either captured or killed 85 of the Michigammia. And an officer, a French officer by the name of Basu, who was traveling just independently through this country, which I've not ever figured that quite out either. He was just out there like on his own hook. And he was up on the prairie picking strawberries with a young Indian maid. And, you can call it whatever you want. Well, on June 6th, you could have been picking strawberries. And there are wild strawberries still that grow here. But at any rate, the Indians, according to his writings, the Indians came up, and then because he was a French officer, they didn't harm the Michigammia woman who was with it.
I think he in particular was sent by, because he had some recordings that I used in regards of noting things,
Yeah.
as his travels through the south and up through this area. And I think he was mostly sent, a lot of his documentation has to do with the natives, and I don't know if he was sent maybe to document what the native ceremonies were, and understanding the natives, and then sharing that information forward, but I think that's the thrust of what his purpose was in traveling, was
Yeah.
that he spends a lot of time
Yeah.
talking about.
He's got some, he's got some great stories
Yeah,
about
he
when
does.
he removed the one young Indian's tattoo, which is further south. They were going to kill this Indian because he had tattooed himself or had himself tattooed, and he had done it under false pretenses. He didn't really earn the tattoo, and so they were going to, they were going to kill him for that. And so Basu used something that we don't see anymore. Blister beetles, which I had one when I was a kid squeezed on me. I got it inside my shirt, but I think they're basically extinct. You never see them. But he used the blister beetle to blister the kid's skin, and then he used plantain in emulsion to heal the kid. And hi, how you doing? But at any rate, well, that's